Hello, so I'm just making this quick short intro before you move into the actual energy activation and meditation, because what you're actually going to be watching is part of a wider program, a 7-week Reconnect program that I actually launched last year. So it might refer to like the weeks before. So I just wanted to let you know that because you might be like, huh? But even though it is part of an actual series, this one does work standalone, and I actually released week 2 last week, so I'll link that at the end and you can do that afterwards if you feel called to. That's all about working with the inner child and shadow work. Whereas this one is all about upgrading our consciousness, going from the lower levels of consciousness, the 3D levels of consciousness, into those higher levels of consciousness that are going to really put us onto that higher timeline, onto our heaven on earth timeline, which I'll release a video about next week if you're interested. So whilst it is part of a series, it does stand alone. And whilst I have redone this program this year, April 24, depending on when you're watching this, and it is different and it has gone up to another level, this is still really powerful. What came through when I did this is still really powerful. The meditation is amazing, and I know that you will enjoy it. So yeah, I hope you do enjoy it. And if you fancy doing week 2, it'll be linked at the end.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Right then. So welcome everyone to week 3, which is about moving from caterpillar consciousness to butterfly consciousness. So we're going to start by just having a look at how the caterpillar transforms. And does it know that it's its destiny to transform from the caterpillar into the butterfly? So we're just going to muse that as we move through this. So how does the caterpillar transform? Well, during its life, it has to shed its skin, its actual physical outside skin, up to 5 times. So it gets to points in its growth where its skin becomes too restrictive, becomes too tight, that it has to actually let it go. But underneath it, it's already been developing a new skin. So there is a new skin waiting to emerge as it sheds those skins. It starts to grow and expand. And then it moves into the chrysalis phase, which is the metamorphosis phase, where it's basically in a shell, cocooned. And the body itself is liquidizing. It's transforming the body from the caterpillar into the butterfly. So it's starting to grow wings. And you can imagine just how much energy that actually takes. So it has to be in this deep state of rest while it goes through that transformation. And then it emerges as the butterfly. And it's now got wings and it can fly. And it can see its reality and perceive its reality from a much higher vantage point. It's got a much bigger perspective on reality. One could say that it's expanded its consciousness. Now, when it was the caterpillar, did that mean that the reality that it's now tuned into didn't exist? Well, no, it doesn't mean that. It just means that from the caterpillar's perspective, it wasn't aware. It wasn't conscious that that reality was actually there all along, was actually around it. It just couldn't perceive it. It wasn't tuned in to that frequency. So we can look at this transformation and we can see how miraculous it is that the caterpillar becomes the butterfly. And we can see how it is an intelligent design, how nature is designed through intelligence. It has a blueprint that has allowed the caterpillar to emerge as the butterfly and to expand its consciousness and perceive reality from a whole new, expanded perspective. So how does that relate to the human? How does the human transform? Does the human know that it's its destiny to transform into, excuse me, a multi-dimensional being. So just like the caterpillar, the human has many skins that it has to shed in order to grow and expand. But the skins for the human are the ego. The ego, which is filled with our belief systems, our limited perspectives. Those form a film around our eyes. They form a film around the reality that we perceive. And when it comes to actually expanding and letting go of some of these belief systems and some of these perspectives, well, it can feel very uncomfortable. We can resist those changes. Now, imagine if the caterpillar resisted its growth. Imagine what it would have lost out on. So when it comes to being human, we do have free will and we can often resist those changes. And why do we resist those changes? Well, it's because we have built our realities around those beliefs. We've invested a lot of time, a lot of energy into them. And when we are faced with the reality that some of those beliefs, some of those perspectives are not in alignment with what we truly desire inside, well, it can be very painful to let go of those beliefs. You know, we could wake up in our 40s and we could have married someone because they were in the right culture, they were of the right religion, they were of the right class. We could be doing a job because it fit in with society's social norms, because it was sociably acceptable. We could be in the family business because that was the expectation. And then we can wake up and realize that we've built a life around the ego, around the false self. And we talked about ego quite a lot in last week's session, where we can see all these conditions and programs that are being programmed and conditioned into us from birth. And we start to identify with the false self and we lose sight of the true self, the soul. But it is the human destiny to wake up again, to remember the self. And we have made agreements with the true self, which is the soul. And the soul will never give up on the self. And the soul and the agreements that we have made is the different challenges that we experience during our life. And those challenges, or I like to think of them as our initiations, are there to help us wake up to the ego, to let go of that which is not us. So it helps us to course correct and to move on to our destined path. So if we think back to 2020, I think for a lot of us then, we experienced huge lightning bolts, huge changes in terms of our reality and our perspectives. I know for myself during that period, lots of my belief systems came crumbling down, and it was painful and it created a lot of fear and it made me feel really angry. I know that many of you on this call experienced my anger during that period because all of my beliefs that I built my reality around came crumbling down. And that often reminds me of the tarot card, the Tower card in the tarot, which I don't know if you can actually see my screen at the moment because it seems to have lost the, hopefully you can see it there. So that reminds me of the Tower card in the tarot. When a lightning bolt comes in, that was a collective lightning bolt that came in 2020, and we experience these collectively and we experience them in our own lives. It could be the loss of a family member, of a partner, a divorce. It could be the loss of a job that comes in and shakes the very foundation, shakes our belief systems. And that which is built on lies That which is not built on solid foundations comes crumbling down. But it is in that crumbling of the false self, of the ego, of the lies, that we start to connect and find the true self, the soul. So whilst it can be painful and uncomfortable as we let go of those skins, as we are doing that through those initiations, through those challenges, we are creating our new skin that is getting ready to be birthed, an expanded skin, a skin that allows us to tune in to a new frequency, to a new reality. So we do have free will as human beings, so we can choose to cling. But if we have made an agreement with our soul to wake up in this lifetime, then our soul will never give up on us. And those challenges will get harder and harder until we wake up, or we will have to replay those lessons again. So those challenges are there to course correct, and we do have free will, but we also have free will to choose our destiny as well. And often it will become so uncomfortable that we have to let go, or the tower will come in and it will help us let go of those limitations that are keeping us stuck, that are keeping us attached to the false self. So right now we are going through an ascension of consciousness. We are moving from the third dimensional caterpillar consciousness, from a lower perspective of reality, and we are ascending. We are on the upward trajectory. We are starting to gain our wings and remembering how to fly again. And we are moving into the 5-dimensional consciousness, which is our butterfly consciousness. And we are doing that both organically and through conscious participation. Now, if we look to the mainstream, we will not get validation of the ascension that is taking place, because the mainstream is rooted in the 3rd-dimensional, lower dimensional consciousness, which is the consciousness of separation. It is the consciousness that conditions us to believe that we are separate from each other, that we are the ego, the false self, the slave self, because the ego enslaves us. And the mainstream is there to keep us in fear. So one way it keeps us enslaved is through fear. So if we're going to look to the mainstream, we will not see ascension mirrored back to us. We have to look to the self. And we are learning how to trust the self. And that is this journey that we are going through at the moment, which is a reconnection back to the self, because it's through our own experiences that we experience our consciousness ascending. And as we start to experience that, well, it is mirrored back to us from the universe. The universe validates that ascension, and we can feel it within our bodies, and we can experience it within our expanded realities. So it's happening both organically and through our conscious participation. Now, what I mean by happening organically is right now, and for actually many years, we have been receiving light codes, solar flashes from the central sun, the central galactic sun, which is source, consciousness, God, from the sun into our sun, and it is radiating down in solar flashes onto the earth. And you can see these flashes if you look to the Schumann resonance, which is the pulse frequency of the earth. But you can feel these energetic waves in the body as well as you start to attune to it. As you start to expand your consciousness and wake up more, you can feel when these solar flashes are coming in. And these solar flashes are coming in to activate, to switch back on our DNA. So our DNA, so I'm just going to move on to this next slide about our DNA. So our DNA, you can see this picture that depicts our DNA, which is like it's a double helix spiral So it's a spiral formation with what looks like ladders. And scientists actually mapped our genome, the human genome. It was a 10-year project back in 1980 where they mapped the genome, and they spent something like £3 billion on this project. And at the end of that project, what they managed to determine, they could only determine 3% of the DNA's function, and they classified 97% of our DNA as being junk. But it is not junk. It's just that science doesn't have the technology, doesn't have the awareness in order to understand what this DNA is. And actually, there is now lots of evidence, one through the spiritual community, because I actually come from a spiritual perspective. I come from experience, from a knowing, from a resonance, from a switching on, from a synchronicity perspective, rather than from a scientific perspective. But just as synchronicity does work, a few days ago, a book came into my consciousness which talks from a scientific perspective, and that shows that it has, even within science, outside of the mainstream, of course, because the mainstream is stuck in its own dogma, as is religion, as is all of our institutions that are infiltrated. But what it shows is that this DNA has been switched off, made inactive. We have been genetically manipulated in order for us to forget the self, in order for us to experience the third dimensional consciousness, which is rooted in being separate, which is rooted in fear and not enoughness. So as organically these light codes are coming into the planet right now, they are being absorbed in the body. And this is why you may at times be feeling all of a sudden just exhausted, because the body is having to acclimatize. It's having to assimilate to these new energies, to these new frequencies, and it takes a lot of energy. So think again of the butterfly, of the caterpillar when it's going through its chrysalis stage, which is what is happening to us. We are moving from these carbon-based, heavy, dense bodies into a lighter body, crystalline body. So it's like our bodies inside are liquidizing and changing form. And again, you'll start to feel this in your body, and it takes a lot of energy. So the body can feel exhausted, and we must give the body lots of deep rest when we are going through these energetic upgrades, so that the body can acclimatize to these energies. Otherwise, we'll end up getting ill. Some bodies will reject this energy because they won't allow themselves the time to slow down and absorb this energy. But it's coming in now. It's switching on our DNA. And this switch on of our DNA is moving us from the 2-strand to the 5-strand to the 12-strand activation, which means our cells are being upgraded, our bodies are being upgraded. It means all of our 5-dimensional gifts and abilities will start to come back online. It means that we are moving into a time, into a new earth, where we will experience eternal youth, radiant health, no illness and no disease, because illness and disease are not normal. And dying at 70 or 80, which we have led to believe is normal, is not normal. It's part of the inverted matrix. It's part of the fact that our DNA has been genetically manipulated, because our cells are created to continually divide and renew. And actually, we will explore this more in session 5, when I'm going to pose a new history of humanity for you to consider, where we will learn that the actual ancient civilizations before the genetic manipulations, that we didn't die after 7 to 80 years. We lived for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And we left the bodies when we had achieved what we came to achieve in that body, when we were ready to move on to another assignment. So we lived in eternal youth and in radiant health. That is the organic blueprint. That is our divine organic blueprint, which we are ascending back into right now. So we are activating those strands organically, which is moving us from the double to the triple to the infinite helix into galactic consciousness, which means into our multi-dimensional consciousness, into multi-dimensional thought. And we will start to activate our multi-dimensional beings. And what does that mean? Well, it means that you might start experiencing right now, you are likely experiencing, and will start to experience this more, that dream time and awake time begin to merge. It's no longer so easy to know when you are in dream time and when you are in awake time, because you will be connecting and accessing alternate selves. And it's been termed high strangeness. You will start to see glitches in the matrix, in reality, because you're going beyond beliefs. Beliefs are being dissolved, and we're moving back into 5-dimensional consciousness, back into the multi-dimensional self. Your true sight will be activated. The pineal gland, which is in the back of the head, in the center of the brain, where you'll start to feel that pulsing, and it pulses out consciousness, liquid light, and it dissolves all that is not you. And it gives you true sight. It's connected to the third eye, to the true sight, so we can see through the illusion. So we become immune to the mind control system. We will start to see increases in our telepathy abilities, because that is natural for us to be telepathic. And I know already that you will be experiencing this in your now reality. Your intuition, your inner tuition, your inner teacher, your guidance system will get louder, will get stronger. You will be receiving downloads of information from the cosmos, from your higher self, and you will just know things. And those knowings, as you connect more to yourself, you will trust those knowings because they will be validated to you through synchronicity. The universe will mirror back the truth of what you are experiencing. So you'll no longer be fooled by the words that are said that are not in alignment with the truth, with energy. So we'll start to come back online with our multidimensional selves, which means bilocational thinking. And we'll go into that a bit more in session 5, but we will start to be able to project our consciousness and connect to our other selves, because we don't just exist here in this reality. Part of our energy is here, but our totality is not all here in this now reality. And we'll start to connect into those dimensions. So as we become the butterfly, we're no longer bound by the conditions of the caterpillar. We see beyond that which we could not see before. So it was always there around us. We were just not tuned into it. So it's like we're tuning into a new frequency. Ascension of consciousness is a frequency change. So it's just like a radio station. The songs are all playing, but you only hear the song you are tuned into. And we only see the reality that we are tuned into. And we're going to be tuning into higher and higher states of reality, which is the truth of who we are. We are actually, whilst it'll feel like we are going through a relearning, we are actually going through a remembering. So our memories are all held in the DNA. Memories of all of our past incarnations, memories of all of our lives on all other planets, because we have definitely not just lived as humans, we have lived as other galactical races, and they will start to remember those lives. We'll start to remember that we are connected to each other. So we move from this 3D consciousness, which is where we believe we are separate, we believe we are the ego, we are enslaved to the programs, to moving into the unity consciousness, where we understand that we all agreed to be here, to forget ourselves, to experience a reality cut off from source, to expand and grow. And the truth is that people in our lives, well, we have made contracts with them to experience things with them, and we will be able to realize within our unity that we can have compassion for another, we can accept another, we no longer need to be in judgment. So a huge consciousness level of the 3D is judgment, and we are conditioned to judge everybody. And we judge people without even thinking about it. We can see someone and a judgment will come into our mind. Is it our thought, or is it being conditioned into us from birth? So we'll move out of judgment and blame and resentment, and we'll move into responsibility, authority, being the authority in our life, being truly responsible for everything within our reality. Because we start to realize, as I said, we are all one, that whilst we may feel that somebody has betrayed us, we will start to remember that we likely betrayed them in a life before, and we wanted to rebalance that karma. The soul wanted to experience the opposite. We will realize that we have been playing in a world of duality, in a world of polarity that we all agree to. Now, that doesn't mean to say that we should allow another to treat us poorly. It doesn't mean to say that we support another's actions that are rooted in fear. It just means that we can have understanding, we can have acceptance, we can understand that everyone at the core is innocent. And actually, within the new 5D reality, we move into self-honoring. It's actually about honoring the self. So within the 3D lower levels of consciousness that we have been locked into through a lot of fear, through a lot of judgment, through a lot of separation consciousness. You know, how else could we go to war? How else could we, as a country, as nations, support wars through our taxes, through our silence, through the media pitting one country off against the other? We could only do that if we believed we were truly separate from each other. And part of that separate consciousness, part of keeping us separate, is also to create that divide and conquer, to pit one group off against another, whether that is a sex, a race, a culture, a religion. So as we move into 5D consciousness, we can allow people to have those different religions, cultures, without being in judgment of it. And we can accept that. And we can understand that that doesn't separate us, that that is just conditions of the 3D illusional self. So as we are transitioning over, so right now this planet is actually operating within the 4D level of consciousness. And it might not feel really like that, because the 4D has a big range, and the bottom of the 4D scale feels like it is very much like the 3D. It's still soaked in fear, soaked in blame and resentment and judgment, soaked in not enoughness, in competition, where we believe we've got to compete against the other. You know, we've got that survival of the fittest. You know, at school we are taught about Taoism, about the evolutionary theory, but we are taught that as fact. I believed that until actually quite recently, even though I always knew we were soul. I always knew that. I always had that knowing, that remembering that we were soul. But I just thought, oh, the soul, yes, it's in a human body, but the human body must have evolved all those millions of years ago from ape to... Now I look back and I actually can't believe I believed it. It's actually quite laughable, but many people still believe that, and it's absolutely been disproven in science that that is not the truth, that we did not evolve as humans from apes, that we were always this intelligent design. In fact, we were more intelligent because we had all of our DNA strands switched on before we were genetically manipulated, which we agreed to forget the self. So, but that is taught as fact at school, not as theory. And there's many other stuff that we are taught throughout our lives as fact, because all institutions are infiltrated in order to keep us in this lower level of consciousness, to stop us from ascending. But that cannot be stopped now. That is happening organically, and we will see a split of consciousness. And many teachers, spiritual teachers, talk about a two-world split. But it's not the earth actually splitting into two, it's consciousness splitting into two, because some people will anchor in, root in, and grab on to the illusionary self because they will be too fearful of change. It will be too uncomfortable for them, and they will anchor on to the 3D. And then there'll be us, many people, many souls like you guys on here, and anyone that tunes into this recording, that are focused on ascension, that are expanding consciousness, that are letting go of resistance, and are allowing ourselves to evolve and actually participating in our evolution consciously. Now, it doesn't mean that you will not ascend if you are not consciously participating in the ascension. You can still ascend whether you are conscious of it or not. It's actually about moving your consciousness. So when we talk about these 5D consciousness states, in that 4D stage, so it's the transition stage, so we are transitioning to 5D. So we'll spend time in all of these levels as we transition before we root ourselves fully in to the 5D. When we are rooted into the 5D, we are already in the new earth. So we have to become the spiritual warrior. We have to move beyond belief in order for us to transition. It takes trust and courage. So we have to move from a place of love. So ultimately, the frequency is love. And it's about moving in all of our interactions from a place of love. And I don't just mean, again, like if someone is treating us poorly, we're not self-honoring by just giving them love and allowing that situation, because we are not honoring the self and we are not loving the self. And ultimately, we are doing them a disservice as well, because we are encouraging that behavior. So it's not about moving that way, but it is about having compassion and understanding, and then honoring the self and moving yourself out of that situation. But it's about any interactions we're in, rather than responding from fear, we respond from love. And it takes trust and it takes courage to do that. Moving out of judgment means we have to start reflecting on the self. Because, I know now this has been one for me, back before 2020, I used to think to myself, what, I'm just such a non-judgmental person. I used to really believe that about myself. I'm a non-judgmental person, live and let live. I didn't really care what people did. Not that I didn't care, but just more like I just thought, everyone's got their own path. But I realized in 2020, wow, I am judgmental, because I found myself judging so many people when that lightning bolt struck, when we had that collective event that took place. I found myself judging so many people for the actions that they took during them. I was judging them for not taking the same actions as myself. And I realized as I worked through that I was judging them because I was in fear. I was fearful that their actions meant that we were going to be imprisoned. But I managed to work through that fear, I managed to reflect on the self and dissolve those fears. So when we are in the 5D, it's not that we do not feel fear. It's actually the opposite. In reality, is that we face our fears. We look our fears right in the eye and we move straight through our fears, because ultimately we understand that fear is an illusion. Fear, false experiences appearing real, are there to limit us from moving into our destiny. So as we are being the true authentic self, it's not about always just being happy. It's about being truthful. So if we are feeling down, if we are feeling bad, then we are authentic about that. We don't project it onto another, but we are authentic in that, because as I said, every community has been infiltrated. So even so has the spiritual community. And one of the biggest infiltrations in the spiritual community, which I bought into for a little while, tried it on, realized it didn't fit, was that we need to not look at the negative, because if we look at the negative, it's going to grow and we're going to attract more to us. But that's not truth. If we resist what we class as being negative, if we ignore it, if we deny it, well, what we resist persists. If we ignore it, we deny it, then we are not being authentic. So we are in a low frequency. So we might be kidding ourselves that we are positive and happy, but if we are repressing and denying, then we are in a low frequency. So it's actually about being authentic, about taking responsibility for how we feel, and about facing those things that don't feel good, that don't feel in alignment. As we do that, as we become the spiritual warrior, we dissolve a lot of those fears. So we start to find that as we are operating with this ascended consciousness, that we feel fear less. Our fears are not, we don't experience fear in the same way that we experience it when we are trapped in those lower states of consciousness. So one of the quite a few of the consciousness levels that I love about the ascension in consciousness is it's all about acceptance. Just be willing to allow yourself to accept it is what it is. That just makes life so easy, right? We don't have to be in resistance to everything. We don't have to fear everything. We don't have to judge ourselves because we are feeling a certain way. We can just accept, well, it is what it is, and it's okay. We become empowered because we take absolutely 100% responsibility for the self. And that can be difficult to do because if we experience something that's not nice, then we don't necessarily want to feel responsible for that. And I do understand that, but we just have to have compassion and non-judgment for the self and understand that the soul chose certain experiences to grow and expand. Ultimately, it chose it to awaken. And we do know that when everything is bliss and harmony and peace, often people don't grow. Often people don't look inside and find the true self. So we had to experience, again, I'll go back to 2020. If that hadn't have happened, then I wouldn't be where I am right now. And since 2020, even though it was really difficult, I have connected to my true self. I have felt my soul, experienced things I never experienced before in my life. Even though I held an awareness, I didn't embody the soul. And since that time, even though it was difficult, I've never felt as whole. I've never felt as grounded, as centered, as fulfilled as I feel now because of that great pain that I experienced. So these points allow us to find the true self, so we can have gratitude for them. Being in gratitude is being in 5D consciousness, and we move out of that lack consciousness of not being enough into abundance. And abundance is not about our bank account. There are many people with millions and billions of pounds. People are chasing money, which is a 3D consciousness, which has people chasing money, looking for something outside of themselves, which they're never going to find. People have billions of pounds, millions of pounds, and they are miserable. They are not abundant. They are poor. They are in lack, greed, consciousness. Abundance is about being in spiritual alignment. It's about being aligned with the soul, and you can only do that by connecting to the self. It's about doing things that you are passionate about, things that light you up. It's about connecting with the people that you love, and that includes the self. That's what true abundance is. And when we live in that vibration, well, we attract more abundance into our life anyway. And the universe always supports our passions and our desires as we devote and commit to them in service. So as we move then, it really is about being the authority in our life, accepting the self as the self is, non-judgment, and we have an opportunity every single day to work on these, using courage, using trust, reflecting on the self, just being willing, finding common ground with another. Now, as we are going through these changes, we can feel sometimes in chaos, sometimes in confusion, but out of chaos, order is born. And as we connect to the true self, well, we become the eye in the storm. We become centered. And no matter what's going on, no matter what narratives are thrown out there to pull us in, we are not affected by them. We can observe them, We can have compassion for the people that are still pulled into them, but we don't have to jump into those dramas. We don't have to be pulled around, because we can sit in the truth that we are ascending. We are moving into a new timeline. That timeline is already set. We are on a collision for a convergence point to that timeline. But we do have to take and make the moves. And as we do that ourselves, well, the ascension is much smoother when you participate in it consciously. So we may feel exhausted in the body. We may get ascension symptoms, headaches, stomach aches. Now, we know ascension symptoms pass very quickly within a few days. So if it's not that, then you may need to get it checked out. But ascension symptoms last usually just a few days, and you can usually feel the body. You just need to give yourself rest. And that's why these meditations that we do, in all of them, we are going into deep rest. The nervous system is going into a rest so deep that it can calibrate, it can acclimatize to these energies, and it can upgrade much more easily. So the meditations really help us to activate our DNA and to move into these higher frequencies, to embody these higher frequencies, to switch on our gifts and our talents. And as we are going through this, we can also sometimes feel disconnected from friends and family, because not everybody is going through this at the same time, and that can sometimes feel like you're misunderstood. And I know that all of us on here, I know that I experienced that hugely during 2020, 2023. And we have to find our way to be able to be that new self. We're moving from the old self to the new self, and it's like we're in uncharted waters, and it's just finding our way to again communicate with our friends and family. And many of us will have experienced since that time a severing of friendships. Look in your own life and ask yourself, did any friends exit your life during that period? The answer is yes. Did any family members exit your life during that period, whether it's just through death, illness, or actually through just no longer being in resonance with those people? I know many friends dropped out of my life in that period who I no longer could resonate with. And that's okay. So it can feel scary when we're letting go of people, but that's okay, and it's part of the ascension process. But we can also feel massive waves of excitement, of bliss, because it is the love frequency, and the love frequency, the bliss frequency, is love and light combined. So it is the love frequency. And when I say love and light, I just want to make the point of saying again, it's not just about love and light and unicorns and rainbows. That is not the path of ascension. That is not the spiritual warrior. It's also about the dark. It's also about facing the dark and absorbing, alchemizing the dark. But through that ascension, we feel waves of bliss, of love, because we're connecting to source, and source frequency is love. So you'll start to experience that more. So how do we help ourselves through the ascension? How do we speed it up? How do we accelerate? Because that's what I've sort of, between 2020, 2023, my growth has accelerated, and people may not see that in my external life. They may look at my external life and think it looks pretty much the same, but I know inside I have shifted. I know I'm experiencing the world from a completely different perspective, from many different expanded perspectives. And that acceleration of growth happened in a few years. That growth is more than what I've grown in the last 20 years. And I've always been focused on my development. It's always been something that has been central to my life. In the last few years, through meditation, through reconnection back to the self, through what this program I am taking you through devotion to this, your growth, your acceleration will shift rapidly. And we do this through connection, through presence. And by present, I don't mean present time. I mean presence. I mean by connecting to your soul, which is your presence, which is your energy field. And we do this in stillness. So this is why meditation is so amazing for ascension, because you will notice that in the last two meditations we did, that there are periods when I lead you into stillness, because it's in that stillness that you are connecting to the true self. The true self starts to show itself to you. You start to feel it. It starts to take up more space in the body. It's like a child, if you are ignoring a child, denying it, if you are distracted all of the time and you don't have time for that child, eventually it'll just go away. As soon as you start focusing on it, giving it attention, it will come forward. And that is the same with our presence. As soon as we start sitting up, paying attention to it, recognizing it, acknowledging it in stillness, it starts to come forward. It starts to show itself to us. So we connect through presence and stillness. So you'll notice as we move on in these meditations, we'll go into longer stretches, expanded stretches of stillness, so you can start to connect to that presence. And on connection with that presence, well, it automatically starts to dissolve the false self, because the energy is so high, it's so pure, that all those artificial mind control programs that have been inserted into our consciousness just starts to dissolve, and we become immune to those programs as well. So we have to remember that first, I am frequency. Before I am a mother, before I am a sister, I am this job. I am frequency. I am energy. I am vibration. I am frequency. When I look after my frequency shifts my reality, and I step onto the timeline, which is already waiting, already exists. It's already there. You just have to tune into it. So we learn through stillness to connect to our integrity, to speak truth from a place of alignment, integrity, from a place of light and love. So I had to really learn this, because I know as I was moving into a new truth, I wanted everyone to know about it. And sometimes I was too forceful with it. And it was because I was moving from a bit of fear. So we have to learn, and we do learn, how to speak our truth from a place of integrity, but from a place of light and love. And sometimes we learn to just be silent with our knowings as well. And we learn that as we move through this ascension, because not everyone is at the same place, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that one is lower or higher, because the destiny of all souls is to awaken. And whether you awaken at this ascension timeline, and we'll go into the solar flash next, or they split off and do the cycle again, those souls will awaken eventually, because it is the destiny of the soul to go back to source, to go back home to the true self. So through stillness, it helps us connect to that true integrity, and it helps us to express from a place of truth, to speak our truth, but with light and with love rather than with fear. Because home isn't a place, it's a state of being. We often think that we are searching for a home, that it's with another, that it's in another place, we can move, go to different countries, but home is a state of being. Home is within, and that's what we are reconnecting back to. Right, okay, so that is the end of that. We are going to move into the meditation now. Okay, I did mean to say as well, I don't know if I did say when I was just doing that, that as we are going through this change, we do need to be really kind to the self as well. So I just wanted to add that it's really about having compassion and kindness with the self as we go through these changes. And just little by little, every single day, as we focus on this ascension. Okay, so I want to start as we always start. I just want you to start with a little bit of a stretch. It's really just about kind of stretching the spine. You just want to allow any tension to be just stretched into, because we're going to be moving a lot of energy, and it moves up and down the spine. So just have a little stretch and get yourself into a comfortable position. So it's always about being comfy. So you don't have to sit up, you can lie down. I always lie down in meditation. So just get yourself nice and comfortable. And let's start by placing your attention and your focus solely upon your breathing. Now it's time to really start noticing, to start acknowledging how each and every unique, rich, full breath allows you to recenter, invites you to anchor your divinity deeper into your physical body, into your reality, allows you to begin to become aware of your presence, your true soul self presence, to feel into it now. Because your presence that starts to come forward more and more to show itself as you breathe into that which appears to be nothingness, as you breathe into the stillness, between my words, around my words, within my words. As the stillness begins to expand, as you relax deeper and deeper into nothing, you anchor into everything. And you may already be becoming aware of how you are finding it easier and easier to relax deeply, finding it easier and easier to allow yourself to sink in, slip in, spiral into your inner world, where all true transformation takes place, where connection to all that is, that was, that ever will be, is to be found, rediscovered, reconnected to now. You can be aware now of how. As you close your eyes, a shift begins to take place. A deepening occurs without effort, and your body is given the signal to start its own journey back to the depths of deep healing rest, where regeneration takes place simultaneously as you move back to the place that unfolds deeper with every breath, beyond the place that you went to before. Deeper and deeper you go. And as you continue to deepen this relaxation, as you feel your muscles letting go, your muscles softening and melting like hot butter on warm toast, softening some more now. As you continue for a few more moments with your awareness connected to your divine breath, you can feel a sense of knowing that your devotion here to self, your devotion here to your inner world, which is your gateway, your access point, a key to creation, to the absorbing of recalibration, of climatization of the higher frequencies, the light codes, the activations contained within these words. Well, it has begun a momentum of change. A consciousness shift is upon you at this time. A returning, a retuning to your true higher embodiment, your true home, fifth dimensional consciousness. This is not a relearning how to embody your fifth dimensional reality. This is merely a remembering, a reawakening from your slumber, a coming home, because home is not a place, it's a state of being. And right now, this shift, this upward gaze, this taking flight, it is so powerful. It is so natural for you. It cannot and will not be stopped. And this momentum, this surrender into you, this embracing of your wings, well, you can know that with every second, every moment, it is gathering more and more pace, doubling, and then tripling, and then quadrupling in its change. So with this in mind, I wonder how much more of your authentic soul self you will have become each and every time you reopen your eyes. So before we continue to go deeper and deeper still, to reconnect, to switch on your 5-strand, 12-strand DNA helix formation, ascend in the spiral ladder of consciousness, before you fully embody this truth, let us be clear about the brain, because the brain has been and is a faithful, organic, divine technology instrument. It is supreme in its ability to interface and translate consciousness into form, to receive and decode messages from the cosmos, from your higher self, to broadcast out your desires and the experiences that you wish to create, to draw to you, to magnetize to you the reality in which you choose to experience at this time, the reality of the 5D self, the reclaiming of your sovereignty, the embodying of the true authentic self. This is why so much time, so much energy and money has been and continues to be spent looking to hijack, to distract this divine technology, looking to capture and imprison consciousness, which is the gold frequency. And as you raise your consciousness through your conscious participation here now, you become immune to any attempts to hijack your gold. You no longer are fooled by all that seems to glitter outside of you, because isn't it pleasing? Isn't it blissful to remember it was inside of you all along within your skeletal structure, protected by the skull, the crystal skull, behind the physical eyes, just out of sight beyond the veil, was housed a treasure chest so miraculous that no thing on the outside can and ever will compare. No material thing can replace the worth of you, the true worth of you, reclaiming your authority over your consciousness, reactivating your divine organic blueprint, your destiny. And we are starting this process with reclaiming the brain. Okay, so let's deepen this experience. I'd like you right now just to open up your eyes and look back, right back, as if you could look back into the center of your brain. And as you do this, you can wonder what true treasure lies in the depths of your being, waiting to be rediscovered. As you do this, you are also giving permission to your higher self to anchor deeply into the body, because it is your higher self that does this most sacred work of cleansing, of purifying all that is not you. All AI programs that are born of the false matrix can be cleansed and purified now. and a reactivation, a reinstalling, a downloading of the true organic blueprint. Okay, so you know the drill. You know that in a moment, I am going to ask you to take one final deep breath in and hold. And on the out breath, you will close down the eyes, allowing a relaxation so deep to be rooted into every part of you. You send a wave, a river, a stream of divine golden crystal light energy from your head to your toes, relaxing, softening every muscle. So ready. Taking a deep breath in and holding, and then on the out breath, closing down the eyes. This relaxation is rooted so deeply in the eyes, and it is moving, flowing like a wave throughout your whole system. You are sinking deeper. And doesn't it feel good to surrender, to let go, to allow your higher self to step in for this time? There is nothing for you to do, nothing whatsoever. You can just focus on my words or focus on your breathing and just allow whatever happens to happen. Because as you relax now deeper, moving out of your own way, as you simply surrender and allow and trust it is happening, being willing to allow this to be effortless, because all of your devotion, all of your hard work, it is seen. It is now being recognized at this time. And I know that it's been exhausting for you. I know you have waited for this moment for a long time. It may be hard to believe this moment is now, but that's okay, because we are going beyond belief. Where we are going, well, it is beyond belief. We dissolve the outdated programs that no longer fit who you are becoming. Now put yourself in the center of your brain, at the top of the spiral staircase, as it comes forward, as it reconstructs any way you like. It can have a dreamy-like feel, a warm energy emits from it, a geometric shape, a representation of creation, the spiral, that can take you to infinite depths of the self, that can propel you up to new heights. For we must descend in order to ascend, must we not? So in a moment, I will count down from 10 to 1. And as I do this, just float, just allow yourself to drift down, spiraling round, down and round, feeling more and more relaxed as you do, holding an awareness as I reach 0. You will once again find yourself in the safe space of your heart. So ready. 10. Feeling utterly relaxed. Every part of you allows for a deepening to occur with every descending number. 9. Within the stillness between my words, you find your anchor. You find a presence is emerging. 8. And you understand that you are safe. You are cocooned in a safe, healing container, held. You feel a deep sense of comfort here. And you know that no one, and I mean no one, can enter this space except that you give them permission to do so. And you only ever give permission to those with a pure heart, to those that hold the highest, the purest intention for you. 7. Begin to sense your presence, your consciousness, your awareness floating down. You're being lovingly guided down by your heart's consciousness. 6. As you move effortlessly, with every heartbeat guiding you, calling you closer. 5. Moving you deeper now into your own cocoon, deeper into your own sacred container. 4. And as you continue to spiral round and down, deeper and deeper, approaching now the warm, healing, cleansing space, the gateway to your heart. And you remember just how good it feels to become so absorbed here that all cares, all worries simply cease to exist in this space that you enter into now. 3. Because in this space, the energy is so pure, the frequency is so high, all cares and all worries simply dissolve and they fade away. 2. Give yourself permission now to allow yourself to relax to even deeper levels. Levels you already know are becoming deeper each time you come back here. And you vow now to come back here often, to the space within where true, lasting transformation can and does occur now. 1. As you round the last corner now, you find yourself at the gateway, the doorway to your heart. Now, as you approach the doorway, the door is already wide open because your body is now the key. I repeat, your body is now the key. You walk in, float in, move into the center of your heart, the center of your being. You are here to soak in, to absorb, to calibrate to these highest of frequencies, which are being pulsated within this space, which are emanating from your heart, which connects directly through a portal, through a stargate to all of creation. For this is pure creational energy source. You go over and you lay down now on the red couch. You pull the green blanket over you. You close your eyes and you become aware. Your body now enters into an even deeper level of rest, into an even deeper level of your healing chamber. You are being cocooned now, protected now by sacred, pure, creational energy. For the body will remain in this healing cocoon, undergoing a deep purification, a deep cleansing of all cells, all systems, all that is not you is being removed from your system now as you rest here in this high frequency, divine healing light, activating every cell of your body. Perhaps you can begin to feel a tingling, a prickling around the skin, within the skin, through the tissues of your body, within your very bones. As you rest, as your body rests here, is protected here by this sacred cocoon, allowing it rest to absorb, to calibrate, to acclimatize to these new higher frequencies. And as the body rests here, working with your soul, with your higher self, we can simultaneously prepare to enter deeply into the control room of your mind, preparing to enter the workings of your brain, where all programs are stored and are running now. So as you remain rested deeply, being cleansed, being purified on the red couch, your astral body, your light body notices a spiral ladder materialize in front of you. Moving upwards, you notice there are 12 ladders, 12 strands to ascend up, to activate. And in a moment, I will count from 1 to 3. And on this count, you will ascend up, you will accelerate up rapidly, quantum leaps in consciousness. You'll begin to activate the 12-stranded spiral ladder, and you will find yourself in the control room of your mind. So ready. 1, 2, 3. You now find yourself in the control room of your mind. Look around and notice levers, buttons, screens of data and information flashing. Now you can become aware that you are elevated on a platform with these screens and levers and buttons. And as you approach the screens, you look down and you can see your brilliant brain, your divine instrument that is yours to command. Just observe the brain for a moment, all of the neurons firing, all these lights of electric pulses whizzing round. Know that within these pulses contains energetic codes, programs that have been running in your brain, some that are you and some that are not. You approach a big screen in front of you. Your intention here is clear: to deinstall, cleanse, purify any AI programs that are not you, that keep you imprisoned in separateness consciousness, and to reconnect back to your divine organic blueprint of unity, consciousness, of sovereignty, of authenticity. Your intention lights up the screen in front of you, and you can see now all the inverted AI programs that are not you flashing up on the screen. Fear, fear of fear, lack, all the beliefs that ever had you thinking you were less than another. You were not pretty enough, smart enough, wealthy enough, successful enough, good enough programs that had you dishonoring the self, had you pleasing others and moving out of your integrity, having to seek approval from another. So many programs that had taken up space, blocking your access to the true self. Just observe with neutrality these programs flashing up before you now. For there was a time when they served you. So you can look on at these with compassion, without judgment, with gratitude for what they have taught you. For each one of these programs has expanded you in some way, has begun the reconnection and awakening back home to the true self. Courage is the true self, for you are the spiritual warrior. Compassion is the true self, for you are the innocent child of God source consciousness. Creativity is the true self, for you create many experiences. Abundance is the true self, for you are always provided for. Love is the true self. Unity, well, it is the true self. So I want you to take a moment to honor the old self that acted from its then perspectives, to give the old self the respect that it deserves, for it does deserve respect. It deserves compassion, understanding, unconditional love, for it has walked a difficult path. We will go into stillness now whilst you allow this to take place. Okay, great. Now that you have honored the old self, it's time for it to transform, to transmute into the new self, from caterpillar to butterfly. And I'd like you to say within your inner mind, yes, yes, you are giving permission to your higher self to integrate the new self now. And as this begins to happen, you can become aware now of the old programs on the screen beginning to fade, to break up, to become almost static, like when you lose the signal to a radio station. You can no longer see or feel that old frequency. It's being cleansed now, purified now, transmuted now, and your divine organic blueprint is being uploaded, is being reactivated, is getting ready to be switched back on now. And you can just breathe into this and allow this reconnection to occur. Okay, great. Now look at the screen and you can see the words organic divine blueprint 5D consciousness programs 100% loaded, ready to be installed, downloaded into the brain. Feel a sense of excitement, a sense of awe, because it's time now. You have done the work and it's time now to ascend to the next level of consciousness. To access the higher levels, all you have to do is press the button that is flashing now that reads download. So on the count of 3, 2, 1, press that button, download. Feel, see, sense the brain is now absorbing, receiving, installing these new frequencies. A golden light is rippling through the brain, around the brain. You are returning, you are retuning into higher realms of existence. A new picture is emerging. It's bright, it's colourful, it's bathed in bliss-charged codes. New insights are awakening at this time. Memories of the true self, synchronicities are your new reality. This download is now sending an energetic wave throughout the body. Your body is being rewired. Your cells upgraded. Light is flooding all systems. This golden light, all systems are flooded with light, with source consciousness. Feel the tingling rushing through the body, filling up all spaces, light so bright, so pure, that any remaining AI programs or energetic patterns that are not you are being transmuted, are being disabled, can no longer take up space in your body, can no longer live in these higher frequencies. And you can begin to feel your body becoming lighter. You are releasing effortlessly all density that does not belong to you. This energy is meticulously working through, soaking into every single cell. All of your trillions of cells drinking in, soaking in this new frequency. Feel the energy building, building more and more momentum as it cascades, charges throughout all systems, soaking into the bones, every cell, receiving this higher frequency, being rewired, switched on, upgraded now. Okay, great. Feel your body feeling lighter now. You are emerging as the butterfly. You are reclaiming your wings. You are widening your perspectives. You are seeing more and more with your true eyes. A profound shift has and continues to take place. Now it's time to come back, to look at the screen in front of you. And you can feel gratitude for the new picture that is emerging. You turn around and you move down the 12-stranded spiral ladder that is now lit up bright. And you find yourself back on the red couch. As you rest for a few more moments on the red couch, you vow to come back here again, to continue to deepen this sacred work, to continue to devote yourself to the self, to honor the body that needs its time now to cocoon, for it is going through a metamorphosis. And there will be times when it needs more rest. And you will know when this is because you are becoming so connected now to the body, and you will honor this. And your waking reality will reflect this honoring through your powerful transformation. So you open your eyes, and on the count of 1 to 10, you will move up the spiral staircase, and you will ascend up, and you will emerge from your cocoon as the butterfly. And it may take a few attempts to really spread your wings fuller and take full, unrestricted flight. And this is okay, because you can feel a sense of knowing that your devotion here to self, your devotion here to your inner world, which is your gateway, your access point, a key to creation, to the absorbing of the recalibration of the climatization of the higher frequencies, the light codes, the activations contained within these words. Well, it has begun a momentum of change. A consciousness shift is upon you at this time, a retuning, a returning more and more in every moment to your true higher embodiment, your true home, fifth dimensional consciousness, a remembering, a reawakening from your slumber, a home coming, a new state of being. It is emerging right now, this shift, this upward gaze, this taking flight. It is so powerful. It is so natural for you, for it is you, and it cannot and it will not be stopped. And this momentum, this surrender into you, this embracing of your wings, well, you know, with every second, every moment, it is gathering, more and more pace, doubling, and then tripling, and then quadrupling in its change. So with this in mind, you can wonder how much more of your authentic soul self you will be every time you open your eyes. So ready. 1, 2, 3. Beginning to ascend in consciousness back up the spiral staircase. 4, 5. Starting to get ready to open your eyes. 6, 7, 8. Bringing awareness back into the body, back into the room. 9, 10. Opening your eyes, emerging now from your slumber.